I am so glad to be with you. And we are just coordinating because I am in my at-home studio and my team is at our global impact base where I am quarantining here. Can somebody tell me I'm good and keep going? Ann, can you tell me that, please? Working through the little glitches here. Yes, keep going. Okay, here we go. As I mentioned, I'm at my at-home studio. So we're just working it out for me to insert my teaching here. I recently traveled to Manila. And so when I came back to Davao, the protocol is to do a self-quarantine for at least 5 days. And so here I am at my home studio having quarantined. And tomorrow is my last day. I feel fine and everything is fabulous. And I'm really happy to be here with you today. And for anyone that's watching the recorded version of this, that you are joining us here on Limitless. And we just have so much expectation, excitement, hope for this coming year. Why not? You know what I mean? We don't want to live in dread, and we don't want to live in fear. Right? We actually have a choice in our life how we choose to live. Now, for sure, the last 2 years with COVID and pandemic and world events has been kind of crazy. And I think for all of us, we've never experienced something like this in our lives, and it can have all kinds of effect on us. But why come into a brand new year dreading what is going to happen or fearful even of what could happen? Why don't we just choose our thoughts and choose the idea, like, let's be hopeful. Even in the midst of challenge, let's maintain our hope. Let's maintain our excitement. Let's maintain an attitude of what can I do? How can I progress in this? I've been listening to something called a wisdom challenge with a gentleman named Pedro Adao. It's fabulous. And in fact, it's on my Facebook and on our Global Impact. We've shared it. So I encourage you to jump in. It's for 30 days called a wisdom challenge, and going through the book of Proverbs, 1 chapter a day, and then discussing it. And he's got a lot of amazing different world teachers that are his guests, and they discuss each day that chapter in Proverbs. It's fabulous, really. I encourage you to join us. So even mid month right now, you can still get in on this 31 days of wisdom challenge. And today, as I was listening to the most recent session, he was saying how he approached the pandemic, he approached challenges not as what is happening to me, but how is this happening for me? So in other words, it's just a little change of thought, of perception. We have the exact same circumstance, but how we interpret it, how we look at it, how we think about it makes a world of difference in our world, right? Oh, this is happening to me. It's like, we're the victim, or we're the one that's being, something negative is happening to us. But instead, if we change it, we can say, how is this happening for me? It could be challenge, it could be hard, it could be disappointment, it could be success, it could be joy, it could be whatever's happening in life circumstance. But instead of us saying this is happening to me, because there's a bit of a victim mentality in that, right? If something's just happening to us and we have absolutely no choice in the matter, we have no control in the matter when it's happening to us. But if we just change the story, if we change the wording in our mind, we're not changing the circumstance, we're just changing how we interpret the circumstance. And we ask ourselves, how is this happening for me? What can I do because of this? What opportunity does this actually open up? What is the world of possibility? Oh, it changes everything. It really changes us on the inside is the biggest place. And that's the place of our greatest battle. It's the place of our greatest growth. It's the place of our greatest success, is what is going on inside of us. And so as we approach this year, as we're already like midway through January, and we're looking at this brand new year of 2022, we can ask ourselves, how is this happening for me? And then start to answer that question. And I love that. I knew about that, I've taught that even before, but I was reminded this morning as I'm going through this wisdom challenge. And Pedro Adao was speaking about that. And I thought that's so important, especially as I come to you for this Limitless session today. I also want to give a quick shout out to Joe Ellen, who's watching and online. Joe Ellen, thanks for being one of our most faithful viewers and supporters. It's amazing. You're always here on Limitless. You're also one of my empowerment coaching clients. And I happen to know that it's your birthday tomorrow, I guess in 2 days for you, USA time. And I just want to give you a shout out of happy birthday early from myself and from all of us here at Global Impact. We love you. And we just wish that you're going to have just an amazing birthday this week as you celebrate. Okay, so let me jump in further to my topic for today. And the title of it is 3 zones, the 3 zones. Now, this came to me over this last year as like a model that we can assess our lives against, or, I don't mean against, but you know what I mean? We can look at this model and we can say, where am I in the model? And the model looks like that. If my team can go ahead and show the slide of the 3 concentric circles, and the center one is our comfort zone or our human zone. The next circle going out is our growth zone. And then the last circle out is what I'm calling our God zone. Okay, so we can look at our lives. We can look at our lives spiritually, financially, emotionally, any aspect of our lives, and take this model and compare and look at and assess, where am I in the model in this area of my life? Okay, we'll just do in general right now, because I believe that all 3 zones are meant to be lived in and worked in at the same time. All 3 are good zones. All 3 are zones that are part of our progress and part of our success and our long-term development in life. We need all 3 operating in our life. And I want to tie this into limitless and living limitless, because living limitless is a nice phrase to say. It's like, wow, yay, we can get excited. But to truly do that and to live a limitless life takes some work. It takes some effort. It takes continual mind renewal on the inside of us, so that we can break through current limitations and move into a next level in our life. And I really think that's the crux or the foundation of living limitless, is simply that when we come up against a disempowering thought, when we come up against a trigger in our life, when we come up against a pain or something that seems to be pushing us or limiting us or holding us in a certain area, that we do the work, we do the prayer, we do the mind renewal, we get our hearts healed, we do whatever, we learn a new skill, we stretch beyond where we currently are to break through that current limitation and go into the next level of limitation, next level of progress in our life. That's what living limitless is. It's a step by step, it's a daily, a weekly, an annual progress in life. And when we push up against something that's pushing back against us or holding us, we find the way through it. We grow through it. That's the beauty of living limitless. So, because the reality is that our biggest limitation is not in what is around us. It's not in the circumstances around us. Our biggest limitation is in our internal thoughts, in our internal feelings. If we could show that next slide, that are the major place that we are restrained is in our thoughts, in our beliefs, in the narrative inside of us, in the story that's within our own head, right? This is the place. And I know I kind of talk about this a lot, and it's in a lot of my teachings, because I believe over and over again, we need to be reminded, we need to learn this. I know I have to continually, it's a daily part of our journey to remind ourselves and to grow in this, because this is the place of limitation. Anytime we blame another person or we blame a circumstance as limiting us, we're not in our most powerful state. We move into power and we move into empowerment when we take responsibility for what's going on inside of us. again, in this wisdom challenge I'm doing, I was listening to Les Brown, who's one of the guests just recently, and he was saying, do we have a story of mediocrity that we tell ourselves? Like a story, this internal story, the internal dialogue. Is it one of limitation? Is it one of just being average? Is it one of not enough? Is it one of mediocrity? Because we have to shift the story from mediocrity basically into greatness, into goodness, into love, into more than enough, into infinity. Shifting the story. So our internal dialogue is the place of our greatest limitation. What's great about this is that we have the ability to change what goes on the inside of us. We don't always have the ability to immediately change what's going on around us, right? Have you ever tried to change somebody else? It takes a lot of work and effort to change other people. And truly, it's actually not our responsibility to change them, right? Or the circumstance. There's times that we can move and we can shift circumstances, and we should, but in general, overall, where we have the greatest power and the greatest control is within us, and the story, the narrative, the belief, the thoughts that we have. So that's where we want to focus the majority of our efforts. And I love a scripture in Ephesians, two scriptures I want to give you. Of course, this Ephesians 3:20 is a favorite of mine, and I love that. I also want to give this to you for this year. Ephesians 3:20 says, "Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us." Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. So let's just take hold of that God's going to do exceedingly abundantly above what we're even asking or thinking. Personally, I'm taking that into my heart right now. As I'm speaking it, it's ministering to my heart, because I'm believing God for some great things that are just beyond what I even think is possible right now. But his power is great. His love is great. The scripture is a promise to us. And it's awesome to look back and also see the things that God has already done that were beyond what we actually even thought or imagined. So I give that scripture to you. And then the next one I want us to look at is Ephesians 4:23. And in Ephesians 4:23, it says, "Be renewed in the spirit of your mind, that you put on," this is verse 24 now, "that you put on the new man, which was created according to God in true righteousness and holiness." So verse 23, be renewed in the spirit of your mind. I really love lately teaching about this, and I feel like deeper and greater revelation on how do we truly renew our minds. In the book of Romans, it also tells us, renew your mind, so that we're not conformed to things that are around us, but instead we're transformed internally. Why? We're coming more and more into the mind of Christ. We're actually thinking like Christ. We're getting rid of the disempowering thoughts. We're getting rid of the lies that we believe. We're getting rid of the pain that's in our heart. We're getting rid of those limitations that maybe are good, but God, we have good thoughts, but they're not taking us into greatness. And so we have to transform even good thoughts into great thoughts. You see, this is all a part of the spirit of renewing our mind. So as I say that, let's jump just into the first zone. I'm gonna break this teaching up into 3 different parts. So today I just want to focus on the comfort zone, that first zone. What does that mean? When we're going for the impossible, when we're stretching for new things in life, when we're looking at this year and we're saying, I want to live limitless. I want to grow beyond where I am today. And that would be my encouragement to you for this year, is that you look forward, you look at your future self at the end of 2022, and you put yourself in that time period, right? So it's after Christmas. It's the week of between Christmas and New Year's at the end of this year, 2022. Put yourself in that mindset right now. That's your future self, who you are then. And now I want you to look back over 2022. Just look back in your mind's eye. What did you accomplish? How did you grow? Where are you now? I think the greatest thing that you can do is that you can have grown personally. You can have grown in a skill. You can grow in your thinking. You can grow in your internal capacity, in your leadership. Where do you want to grow? So from this point right now, in January 2022, looking forward into the year, where do you want to grow? What area? Choose an area. And a great way to grow is by setting an impossible goal, right? So you're looking at yourself right now from January 2022, and you're looking toward the end of the year. And then the second thing that you do is you put yourself in your mind's eye and your future self, and you put yourself in December of 2022, and you look back over the year. Put yourself in both of those positions. Where do I want to grow? And if at the end of the year I look back and I grew in this area, I'd be so pleased. Now, in choosing the area of growth, why not set a big goal, an impossible goal maybe, or a goal that's like bigger than where you are right now? Because in setting that goal, the thing I've learned over this last year, that it's not so much about actually achieving the goal. What? It's not so much about actually, that's not the first priority in setting a big, impossible, hairy goal. The first priority in that is, how am I going to grow in pursuit of this goal? Second is actually succeeding at it. But first is how you're going to grow. You see, to me, there's a key there, because no matter what, then you have success. Even if you don't achieve the actual goal that you set out for, if you grew along the way, you have achieved success. I love that. I've really been applying this to my life in stretching into some new areas and growing myself in new areas with some impossible goals. And it gives me the ability to go for it full force without the fear of disappointment. Because why? Because I'm not fearing not achieving the goal, because that's my secondary purpose. My first purpose is to grow in the process. And as long as I grow, I have achieved. Wow. I hope you can digest that principle. To me, that's something huge that I've only just really learned in this last year, because I always thought about goal achievement as achieving the goal. That's it. It's either success or failure, whether I achieve the goal or not. No, there's actually a higher purpose. There's a higher purpose. And the higher purpose is, who am I becoming? Who am I becoming? And we want to achieve the goal, but by chance I don't. What if I fail at it? What if it doesn't happen? Well, there can be some, some pain in that, some disappointment, of course, but that if it's not the ultimate goal, if the ultimate goal is the growth, then I have achieved. Wow. And I can always set another goal in the next year or coming time period. Okay, so in doing that, this model I want to give you is an easy way to assess your life. Where are you in any area? You can choose any area, or your life overall, right? But you can choose a specific area, like take your spiritual life, your relationship with God. You could take your financial life, your leadership life, your ministry life, anything, any part, and assess it against this. So as I showed you before, there's 3 concentric circles. And the first one, the most internal one, is the comfort zone. Let's focus on that. That's all we're going to focus on for this teaching. And I'll teach on the growth zone and the God zone in coming sessions. The comfort zone is this. Zone is where we already have momentum in our life. It's where we already have skills. It's where we already have experience. It's where we already have like gifts and talents that have been developed. Okay, that's the comfort zone. So sometimes we say, "Oh, we're in our comfort zone," and we say it negatively, like it's a negative thing. to be in the comfort zone. I want to change our thinking in that, because we all need comfort zones. We all need a zone. It's the foundation of our life where it only really requires maintenance to continue there. Why? Because in our past, our past self has done a lot of work to get us to this point. And so in this point is where things are just, they're flowing, they're operating, it's working. Maybe it's your income level at this point. Maybe it's your ability to public speak. It's your level of skill in organizing things. It's your ability to cook. It's your ability to fix an engine if you're a mechanic. It just comes easily. It comes naturally. It's what maybe you do on an everyday basis. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It doesn't take a lot of extra thought or extra skill base to already do it. Can you see that that's the comfort zone? And we all need comfort zone in our life. That's the foundation. Again, I'll say it again. It's because we worked in the past. We progressed and we grew, and we were in the growth zone, in the God zone in the past, to bring us now into our comfort zone right now. I can look at us like at Global Impact in our ministry. If you have a business, you could look at it that way, or a church. It's your current level of operations. It's how things flow and go. It's the things that are in order and they just work. And pretty much it takes maintenance. You can't just leave it alone, because it might start to digress if you don't give it any attention. But the attention that you give it is not like growth kind of attention. It's just maintenance attention, right? It's just what you do. And this is a good zone for us. We all need it. We all must have it. It's from here that we then progress into growth zones and God zones. But let's just look at the comfort zone for right now. Now, let's also look at it in terms of our own brain and our own thinking and our own programming. I'm really loving studying and understanding more the renewal of the mind, how the brain operates, how our thoughts operate, how our deep programming works, the beliefs in our heart, the thoughts in our mind. It's a world of study that the Bible tells us to renew our mind. As I read you that scripture earlier, be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and renew your minds and look at your thoughts. There's so many scriptures that talk about looking at our thoughts and changing our thoughts. So we're right in line with the scripture. But the more that we can understand how it works, how our programming works, and how to shift these things, the more power that we have in our lives. And in studying and understanding just how our brain works, it's interesting that, we all have programming, right? We have our subconscious programming and we have our conscious thought. Our subconscious programming is the majority of the thoughts that we think every single day. And I'm going to put that into the comfort zone, right? It's just what's automatic. It's what's happening. We don't have to consciously think about some of these things. We just do it automatically. In fact, studies say that we have around 60,000 thoughts every single day. You may have heard me say this statistic before, 60,000 thoughts. Now, I can guarantee that you are not aware of all 60,000 thoughts. The majority of those thoughts are just automatic programming, keeping your body functioning, keeping you just living life, talking to people, doing what you know to do. Even when we drive somewhere, there's times our mind can go somewhere completely different. We're thinking about something and we're not conscious of the thought of driving. I don't know if you're a driver, you probably have experienced this, where your mind was consumed with something else. You were thinking about something. You weren't really thinking about the driving, but you got home safe and you knew exactly where to go and how to go and what roads to take. Why? Because your programming kicked in. Your programming was working and you weren't really in conscious thought. You were in programming and you just got home. Now be safe on the roads, but and make sure that you're conscious of what's going on. But I think we've all had that experience in some capacity in our life where we look back and say, oh man, I just did what I knew to do because I've done it so many times. It's the programming that's already deep inside of us. And it's interesting to know that the majority of what we think today, 90% of what I thought today, and I'm thinking in this day, I thought yesterday, and I thought the day before, and I thought the day before, and I thought the day before. So that old adage of, if you want something different, the definition of insanity is wanting something different, but doing the exact same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result, right? Years ago that everyone was saying that all the time, but it's really true that insanity is like wanting a different result in our life, but continuing to do the same things. It's just insane. It's ridiculous, because what we do, what we think, is producing a result. And so if thoughts produce results in our life, but we're thinking the majority of the same thoughts as we thought the day before, the day before, the day before, where do we need to change ourselves in how we think, in how we believe, in the narrative that we have, and how we talk to ourselves? And to be honest, some of this, it's hard to dig up. It's hard to know, because it's just so automatic. We don't actually really realize what's in our programming. But as we have teachings like this, we can start to dig in, and just being aware and starting to observe ourselves in terms of how we interpret a situation. What do we tell ourselves, or about God, or about the other person? Do we tell ourselves, you're not very good at that, and you really need to, you need to improve there, and I'm not so happy with you, or you're not good enough there, and nobody really likes you, or you'll never really succeed. I don't know. So there's some really negative thoughts that we tell ourselves way down deep. And again, we're so used to telling ourselves this that we don't even recognize that we are. But as we become aware, as you have a teaching like this, and I'm telling you that we have a comfort zone in our thinking, not only in our life, but in our thinking. And it's working for us in some areas. It's giving us the success. It's giving us the pleasure. It's giving us the relationships. It's giving us the results that are great in some areas, or good in some areas. But in some other areas, we've got programming that keeps going on over and over again that's not producing a result that we want. Maybe we keep trying to change the result, but we haven't tried to find the thinking that's produced that result. So in wanting to progress in life, we have to recognize this in our own brain, in our own thinking, in our own heart. How does it work? So we've got stuff that's working, but we also got stuff that's producing not necessarily the result that we want, or a limited result. Now, as we want to, though, progress, I want to tell you a little trick to understand about our brains. Is recognize that your brain wants to keep you safe. Okay, that's good. Thank you. It's called survival. We all need safety. And so there's something way down in our deep programming that says, stay safe. And again, there's a good part of that, but there's another part that keeps us from stretching. If way down in our programming, we're perceiving it as not safe, then we retreat back into safe. We got to recognize this. Okay. Another thing that your brain wants to do is it wants to save energy. It wants to save energy. It wants to kind of do just what it knows to do. It wants to save you energy. So these are two things. If we can understand it, overcome the tool of our brain when it's not working for us, when it's trying to keep us in a safety zone, when actually we need to be growing and stretching. But it's telling us, stay safe, stay safe, stay safe, stay here, stay in that small spot, stay safe here because you know this. See, our brains do that. This is where we know this is comfortable. Don't go out here because it's not safe out there. Well, let's look at that. Maybe it is the time to grow. It is the time to stretch outside of this comfort zone. Or your brain's saying, let's just go back into what we know. It takes less energy. It just takes less energy to keep thinking what we already think, because we don't have to build a new pathway in our brain. We don't have to build a new thought. It takes more energy to actually do those things. And that's why when we think and we really create with the prefrontal cortex of our mind, it takes energy to do that. And everything inside of us doesn't always say, hey, let's expend all that energy. Usually it wants to save energy. But if we can understand how things are working and look at our brain, look at our heart, look at our thoughts more like a tool that God's given us or equipment that he's given us, we can maximize the equipment, right? If you know how to use the laptop, you can maximize the use of it. I personally, only know a little bit about my laptop. I have to ask our IT guys and our ones that are experts at it what to do when something goes wrong. So I probably only know about 5% of its capacity, but it has so much more capacity. Why? Because I just don't understand it to use it to its fullest capacity. The majority of you are probably like that too. If you're not a techie person, we have our phones, we have our laptops, we have all these things that give us a good result and we use them. But is there a zillion more possibilities of ability of my phone that I don't tap into because I just don't know how? Yes, there's so much. Why? Because I don't know how. It's the same with our brain, with our thinking, with our programming. We just kind of go with what we know. And if we never study it, if we don't understand it, then we're not maximizing the potential. That's why this is so exciting to me. So I want you to know that two areas of the brain, if we just want to divide it simply right now, is that we have what's called the slow brain or the thinking brain, and we have the fast brain, which is the emotional brain. Okay, so the slow brain, and the reason it's called slow, it's not really that slow, but it's slow because in terms of how quickly it assimilates information or input. So it takes about 1/10 of a second to process new information coming in. Okay, that's our thinking brain, otherwise known as our slow brain, or otherwise known as the prefrontal cortex. Mainly, just know that that's the part of the brain that you do conscious thinking with. And it takes 1/10 of a second for it to process information, which is still pretty fast, right? But the fast brain or the emotional brain, the one that where the emotion also is really coming from, where we feel and we sense, that takes 1/40th of a second to process information. 1/40th. So it's 4 times faster. That's why, especially in situations where there's your deeper internal programming is like triggered, and then the emotion of it comes up, because really all emotion though still comes from thought, but is it coming from our conscious thought or our subconscious thought, right? And so sometimes that's why emotion can go faster than what our logical thinking brain can catch up with, and it takes a little bit later, it takes a little bit more time to think through it logically. As a tip, one thing is when we feel surges of emotion, that's why it's good to take a few seconds, even deep breathing, and try not to go with the emotion. Breathe, take 5 seconds. There's a famous teacher that she says, take 5 seconds, just breathe. And so that you can come into also your thinking brain, your logical brain, and you can assess the situation, not just from an emotional point of view, but also from a thinking brain point of view. Well, that can help a lot of us. I know I get in those situations where the emotion just goes, right? And I just want to react or speak or do from that emotion, because the emotion is so strong, because something is getting triggered way down deep and I'm feeling the emotion, and then I'm wanting to take action from that emotion. But if I can just take a few seconds, and deep breathing is a great way to do it. Prayer, worship, basically come back inside, and then you can also think through then logically how to react, how to talk, how to speak much better. Okay. But if we understand that we have those two brains, and that the emotional brain, the fast brain, only takes 1/40th of a second, and then the thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, takes 1/10 of a second. Now, this is really interesting. This is going to help somebody out there. The emotional brain, remember the one it's faster, it reacts faster, it has the emotion. It is 5 times more alert to threat than it is reward. 5 times more alert. In other words, way deep in us, way deep in our programming, we are 5 times more alert to threats than we are to reward. Now, if you've never heard teaching on this, and you've never known that before, then it's just something that just feels natural, normal, and you're responding to it without consciously thinking about it. It's just in your in your reactions, in your movements during the day. And so because we are programmed, remember I said earlier that we're programmed for survival, we're programmed to keep ourselves safe. This works for us, especially when we are under true threat, when there is something that's threatening our lives. Great, let's go into survival mode and let's go into safety mode. But look at how this can impact us when we're trying to grow outside of this particular comfort zone. There could be something way down inside of us that's saying, stay safe, stay safe, stay safe. But it's not the Spirit of the Lord. It's not the Word of God leading us in that way. The Spirit of the Lord could be leading us into something that is like stretching us, which is the growth zone and the God zone. But if our programming is saying stay safe, it's like this pull on the inside, like don't try. Or look, you tried before and it didn't work. That's the biggest one. Look, you tried before and it didn't work out. Look, don't try that again because you don't want to be disappointed again. Look at the pain that you went through already. Just forget it. Just give up. Don't try anymore. You see, that's way down deep programming telling you to stay safe and not to duplicate an experience of the past that hurt you. Don't try again with that person, that relationship. Why? Because look at how you got hurt before. Look at what that person did. Look at what that man did. Look at what the woman did. Look what the child did. Look at what my leader did. I got hurt then, so I'm going to stay safe now. I'm going to put protective barriers around me. I'm not going to try anymore. I'm not going to work on this because I'm going to try to stay safe. You see, some of this can be way down deep programming that we don't even know is there, trying to keep us in that comfort zone. We don't want to live from the past. We don't want to live from the experiences of the past. We can understand it. We can say, yes, I was hurt there. I was disappointed there, but I'm not going to live from that. I want to live in progress in my life. This didn't happen to me. This happened for me. How did this happen for me? How did a hurtful situation happen for me? It happened for your growth if you look at it the right way. If you say, how can I grow through this? How can I heal through this? How can I become the person that goes into my next level in 2022? Not, I'm going to stay safe and I'm going to stay hurt. I'm going to stay disappointed. I'm not going to try again. I'm not going to progress. I'm not going to stretch because look what happened in the past. No. See, if we understand it, we can say, no, I'm not going to live from that. I'm going to acknowledge that. I'm going to get healed from that. But I'm going to look at it as for me, not to me. Why? So I can go into the growth zone. I can stretch into the God zone. So thank you, brain. Thank you, programming, for keeping me safe. I do appreciate that. But I'm not always going to follow it because it's not always helping me progress into the growth areas that I want to do. If I can acknowledge it, I can easily then make my decisions. So that's it for part one, the comfort zone in our life. It's a good thing, actually. We have to have a comfort zone. We have to have momentum. We have to have what's already working. We don't need a lot of maintenance to change it for the results that we are wanting, we're producing. But let's also look at those areas where we have, we're a comfort zone of we've been thinking something over and over again, but it's actually not really producing the result we want. That's where we have to go in and stretch into the growth zone in that area to transform our thinking, our story, our narrative, and our belief. Okay, I hope that this has truly helped you, given you some food for thought. And I would encourage you to look at the areas in your life where it's already comfortable and what's working for you, but then be aware through triggers, through pain, through disappointment, through those sorts of things where you want to retreat back into safety, but it's the Lord is telling you, or your heart is telling you, hey, let's grow in this area. Then you find out what that is and you transform that area. Comfort zone is good. Let's keep cultivating a good comfort zone. And as we grow into new areas, then that new growth area becomes our new comfort zone. Great. All right. I love you all. And in the next Limitless, we will talk about the growth zone and what happens there. All right. God bless you all.